This episode is for paperback writers. You're in the Playhouse. Welcome to the Playhouse. I'm Uncle Paul. And it's time for our very special hellos. Hello to Finley, Beadly Tone, Jerome Luby, the Sticker Mania family, Matthew Street, Rachel's Ghost, Andrew of Parlogram, Beetle Destino, Andrew Dixon, Dave Sudstrom, Patricia of A Little Beatles Corner, Beetle Brad and Beetle Dave, Polly Hewitt, Ken Michaels Radio, Joe Mayo, Brendan Snyder, Andy and Tom of Two Legs. And we thank everyone for all their support in getting the Playhouse word out. And if you'd like a special hello, you can just leave it in the comments. You can dedicate one to your child or your pet, and we'll be happy to say hello in a future episode. And that's our very special hellos for today. One thing we really enjoy here at the Playhouse is the novel graphics that came out. They're very popular. They go all the way back probably, again, if anyone wants to leave a comment, but certainly in the 50s. A lot of movies were adapted into what they call novelizations. And these are a few of those. And then a lot of them, as we're going to go through the pile here real fast, to show you just some fun TV adaptions of stories that they made just for fans of the show. And some of them can be real fun, as you'll see in a couple of minutes here on the Playhouse. But of course, we always start with the Beatles. Now, this is the original Dell first printing of the adaptation of the Beatles in A Hard Day's Night. And it's a now swinging gear movie released by United Artists and starring Ringo, Paul, John, and George. And that's the order, of course, that they had on the cover. And it says it comes with 8 pages of exclusive photos from the movie. Here's the back real fast. Okay, lots of fun. You can find that it's rather common. And again, we don't talk about price, but as you know, you can pick them up rather inexpensively. Now, this is another version that the Playhouse has, and this I think is a rarer version. This is by Pan Books, and again, this is the Beatles in their first fab film, A Hard Day's Night, and it shows Paul's grandfather on there, and nice picture on the back. This came from, actually, it says Australia, and it was 60 cents in Canada. Okay, now back to Dell. Now here's the original Help novelization. It says a novel by Al Hine. Plus, again, 8 pages of exclusive photos. It's now the craziest movie ever made, starring, again, Ringo, the actor, is always first. Well, Ringo and Paul, I know this isn't even controversial, were the most popular Beatles around this period of Beatlemania. As you know, sometimes they only marketed, like we'll be talking about Soakies in another episode, but I know as a lot of the Playhouse members know that like they only made Paul and Ringo Soakies, and those were just little plastic things. I really felt John and George deserved their own Soakie, but that does show that Ringo and Paul were definitely the most popular. Now, at the time, here's the novelization. This is by Signet of the classic Beatles Yellow Submarine. This is beautiful. It's sealed right now, but it's in full color, and it shows all the stuff from the movie. It's really nice. Here's the paperback version. Of course, a lot of these came out in hardcover now. We know the original printing of this was in hardcover, and then usually after a while, they would release it in paperback form. And this is, of course, their manager's, Brian Epstein's, book of his thoughts that he wrote called A Cellar Full of Noise. Of course, the cellar, meaning going back to where he first saw the Beatles at the Cavern Club at an afternoon lunch performance. And of course, the Cavern Club was located in a cellar. So that's why he said, cleverly, a cellar full of noise. So from the man who discovered the Beatles, because their first manager, of course, was in Germany, the late Alan Williams. And I can just attest, because I met him a few times. He's a very, very kind man. And it's always a shame, too, that we lost Brian too early. August of 1967, as we know. Of course, here's John's foray into solo acting. He did the movie How I Won the War in 1966 during that little Beatles sabbatical, but they needed just a little time. They had stopped touring, but this is a Richard Lester film, and also done at United Artists. But I think most people also, when John gave interviews later on, he discussed he learned how much, there wasn't much downtime during the Beatles films while they were doing them, like A Hard Day's Night and Help. But there was a lot of setups and downtime during the filming of How I Won the War. And he always talked about how he started writing Strawberry Fields Forever during the filming of this movie in Spain. This is where he was filming it, by the way. Almira, Spain, I believe. Now this is John in 1965, in I believe 66, maybe the second one came out. John wrote his famous, just some call them nonsense poetries, but they're very clever, that he was actually doing since he was a child in art school. So these came out originally in hardcover, in his own right, in his second book, A Spaniard in the Works. So this is the paperback version of it. And it says here at the bottom, it says, yes, was $5 in hardcover, now 95 cents, but don't ask why buy. And it does say ARSK, A-R-S-K. Maybe John even, see, that's a kind of like a Johnism. And it's funny, yes, because they say John Lennon in his biggest hit, the Wall Street Journal, the Business Week, the New York Times, said, it's the writing Beatle. But we'll read you one comment that, let's see. Wild and splendid talent, preposterous, entrancing, and impossible. And that was written by Robert Cromie of the Chicago Tribune. These books, again, were very well loved. Now, when John first met Yoko Ono, being an artist well on her own, she had produced a book. Now, this is the paperback version of it, but this was what Yoko gave to John very early on. And he was, of course, just blown away by all her art pieces. Now, of course, this book is called Grapefruit, and by Yoko. And even this is the reprint. So actually put some pictures. But again, when originally Yoko gave this to John as a gift, the hardcover version, this book is full of Yoko pieces, meaning this is called Cloud Piece by Yoko. Imagine the clouds dripping. Dig a hole in your garden to put them in. And this was written in the spring of 1963. Now, I know people have different thoughts about Yoko Ono, but just for the Playhouse, and again, we respect everyone, but I think she was very much ahead of her time. Here's something called Map Piece from the summer of 1962. She was quite the avant-garde artist. All right, now we're going to get to some of these fun, because if people loved the TV show, they'd put out, this is by Tiger Beat and The Brady Bunch, The Treasure of Mystery Island. Now, these weren't even written based on any episodes generally. They just made up something and put the Brady Bunch in them, and then you'd add some pictures of the Brady Bunch. There's the lovely Marcia, and Barry Williams and Eve Plum, and here's Susan Olsen over here. But the titles alone, we won't read you. All right, here. The Bradys take off from Mystery Island and what is supposed to be relaxing, fun vacation, but unknown to them, there are mysterious forces at work on the island, and it isn't until they arrive that they find out about a missing treasure. See, I rather see the Bradys go to the Grand Canyon and Hawaii and move around with, see Don Ho. You know, you can't go to Hawaii in the 60s without Don Ho making an appearance in the episode. Lots of fun. We're going to be covering the Monkees in a future episode, probably even more than one. The Monkees go mod. It's a mad trip into the mod world of Mickey, Mike, Davy, and Peter. We sold a lot of copies, and you can usually find this very easy. We love that girl, of course. Wonderful sitcom that lasted 5 seasons. And she self-canceled herself. She was always, it was a very popular program, way ahead of her time, of course, because, you know, she was playing a single girl, a working girl even, wanting to be an actress, living in Manhattan on her own. So again, she was very ahead of her time, a big inspiration for the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But here, she's a frightened young maiden pursued on a haunted moor by a wrathful wraith. Would you believe she's that girl? Okay. I don't write them, I just read them. All right, we always need some happy days here. We got a few here. So we'll go read these, but some happy days because they put a lot of novelizations out from that. Ready to go steady. Fonzie drops in. And here's the Fonz and Lasagna. And it's same as with the Brady Bunch. Of course, the Partridge Family, number 6 here. Keith Partridge. He's a master spy. Right. It was the brand new novel by Vance Stratton. Love Gidget as well. Of course, to me, the only Gidget is Sally Field and, of course, Sandra Dee. But here Gidget goes to Rome. But of course, it is by Frederick Conner, who was the creator of Gidget. Of course, Gidget was created by his real-life daughter. That she was the inspiration for the Gidget character. We should show. Okay, now we're getting to. This might have been in our trash. Should have been in our trash episode, but okay. Oh boy, I'm gonna let the Playhouse go. Oh, not that. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We love the Bee Gees. Of course, with George Burns here dancing. I think there's enough said about Sgt. Pepper. You either know it. We love Peter Frampton. We love the artists that were in the movie. And we love Alan Carr even. But we know it doesn't hold up. Speaking of Alan Carr, his masterpiece from the producer of Grease. Yes, that's what Alan Carr did. This was Can't Stop the Music. This was with Valerie Perrine, Bruce Jenner, and of course, you can't do a movie without the Village People. Yes, I'm not sure. I actually think the Playhouse acquired this at the time. So, here's our last one. Here's 10,000 Secrets about stars, 101 stars. And it tells you, supposedly, how to meet them and where to write them. And this is, of course, a Tiger Beat paper here. Speaking of here, it's Barry Gibb. See, and stuff. Just information. Look at this. Yeah, here's Peter Tork at the time here, when he had his long hair and beard after he left the Monkees. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our look at the TV and Beatle-related novelizations. And for now, the Playhouse is closed. Thanks, Joe Friday.